So Mel, who's our sponsor
Yep.
again?
Mate, you know who it is. It's Skrill Money Transfer. How many times do I have to remind you?
Okay, as suggestive as the name is. So what do they do technically? What can you use Krill money transfer for?
I've told you this as well. It means that you can transfer money easily from countries like Australia, the UK, the US, Canada, Europe, South Africa to India. You can get great exchange rates and you don't pay any transfer fees. Should be
Exactly.
easy for you to remember, man.
Yes, it is. I remember all that. That's why shouldn't we all be doing that right now? Shouldn't we all be sending money home to India or contributing to money to whatever cause there is in India and helping people there?
You are on the same page as me, and we've been contacted by some other people. So after the show, let's go and find out some good sites, and then we can transfer some money, and we can use a promo code that's in the description as well, because we'll get some good rates. We should probably get on with the show.
Maybe we should.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Over and Out with me, Melinda Farrell, and Bharat Sundaresan joining us, and proudly brought to you by Skrill Money Transfer. As you might have just heard, Bharat knows all of this now. We are very happy to be associated with Skrill because we know that we can transfer money to India from Australia, where we are, or other places in the world and get great deals on exchange rates and no transfer fees. Don't forget the promo code as well if you're watching at the moment and you'd like to send money to India. I think all of us are feeling like that right now. But let's get on with our six deliveries. I know Bharat has dressed up especially and done his hair for this show today. And yeah, I love it, man. It looks good. You're looking good. Now, first up, well, Aussies go home. It's been a very busy week. I know it's been a busy week chasing news for us, but Andrew Ty, Adam Zampa, and Kane Richardson have all left the IPL and returned to Australia. The situation is that the government made an announcement that they were pausing all passenger flights from India, and the players basically didn't want to run the risk of getting locked out. They will look at it again, the Australian government. They will continue looking at it. At the moment, it's still May the 15th, but there's no way of knowing whether or not they might extend that. So it could extend to the end of the IPL or even longer, which could have ramifications for Australia's tour to West Indies. So it's been a really complex situation. But I know a lot of some people, according to some feedback that we're getting, are not happy with the players for leaving. But do you really think we can blame them for doing what's best for their own health and well-being, Bart?
Not at all. And I think, if anything, I have more respect for players who take that call because it can't be an easy call. I mean, and it's not purely because, oh, you know what, oh, they're earning millions. How can, it's just about saying no to these millions or goodbye to these millions. It's about a lot more. I mean, it's T20 cricket. It's a league. It's a business. And when you're turning your back on it, there is no guarantee that you will ever play again. And these
Yeah.
players are aware of that. And I'm not saying this to paint owners or league itself as being villains, but it's a fact. It's not a breach of contract, but you are cutting your contract midway and you're leaving, right? I mean, the tournament continues. So it can have long term ramifications, but to know that, be aware of that, and to then choose family and your own health and the safety of your family back home and decide to leave, it takes a lot of courage. So I have complete sympathy and a lot of respect for Andrew Ty, who timed it better than Kane Richardson and Adam Zampa. That's the only thing he did
Shouldn't
better
say
than.
that again. I've actually been speaking to AJ Ty, and he made it really clear as well that Rajasthan had been fantastic, and they've been so supportive of him and wanted him to do what was best for himself and completely understanding. So, I think that it's really important that we acknowledge that the club has been really supportive. But it's the wider thing, and you're right. Who knows if they'll ever even get into the auction again? That's a big risk to take. But I mean, it's pretty. I feel it's pretty hard to judge anyone at all in this coronavirus world for making any decisions based on how they're feeling. It's just a really, really, really tough world.
And yeah, Kane Richardson became a father just in November, right? And Adam Zampa has been putting off his wedding for the last year and a half. And those things, like whoever you are, matter more and should matter more than a game of cricket or anything else, really. I mean, look at R. Ashwin. He's right there in
Yeah.
India, but his family has been riddled with the virus. There are a lot of people in his immediate family and his extended family who are struggling with it, and he had no other option but to leave and go support them. And you can't point a finger at someone taking that call. So maybe we'll have more players doing that. Hopefully not, but if they do, then you have to support them.
Yeah, absolutely. We have certainly thoughts with everyone over there. I think it must be hard for the players to grapple with it, with the whole moral thing as well. There are people who disagree, some people who think they shouldn't be playing, some people thinking it actually is really, really helping them. And I have respect for both of those views, really. But that's something that no doubt a lot of players are dealing with and trying to work out what they can do. But more on that later, because it is time for our second delivery of our over and out today. It is faffing about Faf. There's been a lot of faffing about AB de Villiers and all the calls for him to be brought back into the South African side ahead of the T20 World Cup, and that's been quite a hot topic. Meanwhile, just quietly off to the side, thank goodness Faf du Plessis has not retired from all international cricket, because blimey, he has been in the form of his life so far. And for all the talk about AB de Villiers, he's got to be one of the most important cogs in South Africa's wheel of if they're to have any chance of performing in the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, and he's been one of South Africa's most consistent batsmen and players, not just in international T20 cricket, but in T20 league cricket as well. And speaking of consistency, he's stuck to the same franchise from 2011, from his debut season in the league. So he's just hit like a rich vein of form, which he seems to do season after season. And the rich vein of form is not just with the bat in hand, but also when he's in the outfield and he's taking extraordinary catches like he did the other day against Hyderabad. He just brings so much to a cricket team. Just that calmness. He's a born leader. You can just see it in the way he gets players to just rally around him, whether he's captain or not. And for all this talk of like bring ABD back, I don't know. I think there should be more talk of keep Faf in, he's retired from international Test cricket to focus on the white ball formats. And whether ABD comes back or not, the South African team will need Faf firing if they have any chance to do anything in that T20 World Cup. And so far, what we've seen of him in this league, are very good signs of that.
Yeah, we know how good AB de Villiers has been. Just going through, I mean, he started with a duck, Faf against Delhi. Since then, 36 not out, 33, 95 not out, 50 and 56. Just imagine that batting lineup for South Africa that includes both of those players. Not bad at all. Third delivery, and it is time for our Skrill Secure Player of the Week. Thank you very much to Skrill for bringing this one out of the cupboard, because it's a very exciting delivery for us, because we just love talking about him. He's one of the great guys in the game, and he is someone who in this week has shown that it's not just about batting or bowling or fielding or anything that's happening on the field, but we are going to give it to Pat Cummins, and it's pretty obvious why, isn't it, Bharat?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard all the good things about Pat Cummins ever since he broke onto the scene, right? He's a prodigious talent. He's since become the best fast bowler in the world, arguably the best looking man in world cricket, arguably has the best smile, has the best eyes, and now he's shown that he's got the biggest heart. And it's not just because, he's contributed money and amount. The other day I saw, I think it was in a piece I read in one of the Australian newspapers, that it was just, I think Ben Stokes had contributed double of that to some other charity a couple of years ago. It's not about the amount of money, really. It's about the gesture and the fact that he's showing everyone else that you can contribute off the field as well. There's one thing just going online and talking about, oh, you should cover up, you should wear your mask, you should sanitize. But maybe, like, you can take that next step. And there has been a lot of criticism as well in terms of like who was guiding him and has he contributed to the right cause. But I don't think we are here to discuss that. And I encourage more overseas players to, find ways of contributing and giving back. I mean, let's face it, India has given them a lot, right? Not just through this league, but just over the years. I mean, Indian cricket gets a lot of flack for being this indomitable beast and, like, flexing its muscle everywhere. But it does give back a lot to the players. And this is their way of giving it back. And who better? No surprise. I don't think anybody's surprised that Pat Cummins was the one to take the lead. But like he said in that note, he also does. He is egging everyone else around him, especially the overseas cricketers, to contribute to these causes. And maybe and before I give it back to you, Mel, a lot of Indian cricketers have been criticized, saying, no, but how come they are not contributing if, like, an Australian can do it? I think they are. I mean, Harbhajan Singh has started a mobile clinic in Pune, and others, from what I know, are doing their own bit. Doesn't mean that you need to publicize it. But Pat Cummins, what he did, I'm glad he publicized it, because it just not only tells us about Pat Cummins, the human being, but it also tells us that they care. These are human beings as well. They're not just highly paid performers who come on the field, do their thing, and leave.
Yeah, and you can see that in some of the players who've spoken. You could see that in Pat Cummins' statement that harks back to what I was saying, as I think a lot of the players are wrestling with this whole moral dilemma of being in India, being in a really safe, biosecure bubble, earning lots of money and looking out their window or looking on the TV and seeing so much pain and suffering. That's not got, that's you really got to hurt you and leave you feeling a bit helpless. And I think that's sort of what came across in Pat Cummins' statement. And I agree with you. We shouldn't. People are really quick to point and say that something's virtue signaling or something just because someone makes it public. But by making it public, those guys are, I think you're right, egging other overseas players to do the same. But a contribution that's made in private is also just as important. So hopefully there's a lot of help coming to a lot of people over there, and cricketers and the wider cricket world can play their part in that. So well done to Pat Cummins. You are our Skrill Secure Player of the Week, and a great guy. Woot, woot, woot. You know what that means? There's been a no ball, so it is time for our free hit, and that means it's time to remind you just about our sponsor today, Skrill Money Transfer. You can transfer money to India using Skrill Money Transfer from loads of countries: Australia, where we are, England, Canada, the US, Europe, South Africa. Great time to be sending some money there as well. And you can get some terrific exchange rates. You don't pay any transfer fees. And even better, we have a special promo code. So go and check out the link in the description if you would like to see how you can get those great deals with Skrill Money Transfer. Right, let's get on with the show. Well, our fourth delivery is a really weird name, I think, but Bharat chose this one, Hetty's Patch. Please explain.
Okay, Hetty's Patch, I'll be honest, is actually a sewing shop in North Adelaide run by this wonderful old lady called Hetty. And my wife Isha and I went there the other day. I mean, she walked in and she was looking at everything that she needs for her sewing, while all I kept thinking about is, Hetty's Patch, Shimron Hetmyer, whose nickname is Hetty, and that's how warped my mind is. But also why I was thinking about Shimron Hetmyer is because of how he seems to be coming into his own in that Delhi side. The last two innings, now you know why he plays pretty much every game for Delhi, or he has since he was picked by them a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year. But if you look at Shimron Hetmyer in the whole context of West Indians in the league, he's not the most highly built. Like, you don't talk of him in the same breath as Puran or Gale or Russell or Bravo or Pollard or those guys. But if if anything, in 2018 when West Indies toured India, he was the star. I mean, he was scoring hundreds, he was hitting sixes, and hitting sixes is something he's done. As I was to discover when I did a story on him in 2018, since he was a 6-year-old. Like apparently he would accompany his brother to his brother's club games in Guyana, and during the lunch break, it used to be 40 minutes of Hetty's patch, I guess, because he would. This tiny boy would stand there and hit a lot of sixes and entertain everyone. And he is the definition of a power player. Big bottom, as you can see. And this is not me objectifying Hetty, but it's a big bottom, and you can see how much power he generates from there when he hits his sixes. Is mainly cross-batted.
And we're going to get so much hassle for this. So
I know.
Bottom shaming Hetmyer.
I'm not bottom shaming him. There's a lot of power in that bottom, and he uses all of it. And that's what makes him such a power player. And also, there comes a time during every season in this league where the West Indians begin to take over. It's beginning to happen. Sunil Narayan had a good day the other day, and now Hetmyer is like Hetty's really hitting his patch. So I think we've hit that point in the season.
I'm going to steer clear of that. What I will say was funny about in that last game was that when you had Rishabh Pant out there and you had Hetmyer, they needed, I think, 10 off the last two balls. And they'd got and it was Rishabh Pant on strike. Normally, in a situation like that, you'd be thinking, "Oh, thank goodness Rishabh Pant's on strike." He'd be the one player you would want to be there in that situation. But the way that Hetmyer had played to that point, it was like, damn it, Rishabh Pant's on strike. It should be Hetmyer. And in the end, they came agonisingly close, of course, but you do wonder if Hetmyer might have been able to get them there. But I thought that was a very interesting little switch in just how well he played in that inning. So we'll see next time if Rishabh turns down the single, if it's close again. We'll see. Or the second run. I think they ran 2, didn't they? But okay, you can have Hetty's patch. We'll go with that one for this week. Our fifth delivery of our over and out this week was sort of got me thinking about it after seeing an exchange on Twitter between Jimmy Neesham and our friends at CricViz, who are always so helpful, just about fielding analytics. And he'd been talking about seeing a graphic on the TV coverage showing Jimmy Neesham showing his own sort of fielding analytics and how many runs saved in the circle and outside the circles, which is something that CricViz do, which I find fascinating. And they went back and pulled up a picture from the last World Cup, I think it was, that showed Jadeja's way above everyone else in terms of like runs saved and everything. And it was only in 2 games, and he was ahead of all these great fielders who played 8 or 9 games. So it was a really interesting exchange, and it just sort of made me think, because we've talked so much about Jadeja earlier in the week, and he has had an incredible week on the field, let's not forget. We are still so behind in cricket when it comes to actually appreciating fielding and prioritising it as a skill. I still think it's the third, the last skill that's really spoken about in the game, as far as batting and bowling go, even specialist fielding like wicket keeping. So it's interesting to me that even players are now finding that sort of information useful to them. And I just wonder if it will ever catch up to batting and bowling, because we've seen in this tournament so far some incredible fielding. And there's that old thing, when you say, oh, so-and-so's worth 20 runs in the field. And we've never actually been able to measure that before, and they're trying to now. How do you feel about those kinds of fielding metrics and the part that they play in a T20 comp like this?
Especially in a T20 comp. And I distinctly remember during the 2003 World Cup in South Africa was the first time they even tried dabbling into fielding stats, and it was, I think, runs saved. They used to have like a +1 if someone like really put in the dive and stopped a single, and they would have a -1 if it went through someone's legs. So it was a very, very straightforward miss or just a misfield. But it was very basic. It was just +1s, and it was there, but it would be discussed on and off. But unless it was something extraordinary, nobody really pointed it out, and then with time it just faded away. I think it was only there for that tournament, and maybe for a few months after that. But now with CricViz and with analysis and analytics having reached the level it has, and it continues to grow, we can pick out so many more things. I mean, if we can focus so much on where the ball pitches and hitting zones and hitting Hetty's patch and all that, I'm sure we can definitely have more about fielding standards, because we talk about this country's or this team's fielding standards have been raised. But what do you mean by that? There is no metric for that. Does that mean there are more guys diving around? And Chennai is a great example for that, right? They are arguably the oldest team in the comp, but they save a lot of runs. I mean, Faf du Plessis, the age that he is at, Jadeja is just Jadeja, but even the likes of Ambati Rayudu, I mean, he's exceptional in the field. So that means that it's not just about diving around. It's about stopping runs. Or we can find out so much more. And I can tell you one thing about Jadeja is, even though he hits the stumps so often and he runs out so many people, he has a metric in his head. I don't know how he calculates it, because I remember when he ran Steve Smith out during one of the test matches here in Australia. I bumped into him in the next morning, and he was beaming, and he said that was my favorite run out. And I was like, but I've seen you pull off more extraordinary things in the past. But he said, no, just the angle I ran in from and what I had to aim and the speed and all that. So he had some metrics going on in his head. I was like, all right, if he does it, I'm sure our friends at CricViz can come up with something, and it'll be a great stat. It'll be a great graphic, especially for T20 cricket, where you're like, okay, I mean, this batter or batsman has averages 20 with the bat, but he also averages 11, when it comes to saving runs.
And that'll be just interesting to see if more and more we start seeing specialist fielders being selected for tournaments like this Indian Cricket League and others around as well. Just choose one. I think Jadeja may have played that part for India a couple of times. Super sub, just saying. Now, the next delivery we have in our over is David Warner going slow. What's happening with Dave Warner? Don't think I've ever seen him. I was trying to think if I have looked so frustrated during an innings. He might look really frustrated when he gets out, or something not happening. But the screaming and the contortions of the face and swatting the bat around, it was like everything he hit either went straight to a fielder or he didn't middle it, and so it wasn't connecting or going far enough. And we've spoken a lot about the difficulties that they're having at Hyderabad, but there couldn't have been much of a starker contrast between the way Warner scored those runs and Kane Williamson scoring not as many runs later, but gee, they looked a lot easier, didn't they?
Yeah, and maybe it has a lot to do with Hyderabad's overall batting issues, that maybe David Warner was trying to bat through the innings, and when you do walk out with that mindset, even when you are trying to attack, you're not 100% convinced with what you're doing, or you're not committing to your shot as much as you would if you are playing with a free mind, and we've seen that unless those top three fire, that middle order really hasn't come to the party. Manish Pandey was promoted to one down, and he batted pretty well. But we've not seen this side of David Warner for a while. I mean, even when he was getting out to Stuart Broad in the Ashes, he would, after the third time, he would just walk off with a smile on his face, almost like a sign of resignation. So, especially when he got to 50, right, against Chennai, you could see that he didn't want to celebrate. He almost was hating the fact that it looked that way, that he had got to a milestone. And it was an incredible milestone, 50th half century, I think, in just over 200 games. That's like one half century in 4 games. That's just a
But this was one of the most tortured looking 50s, I think, that he's ever scored.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And since that Ashes, especially in white ball cricket, he's been on fire, right? He's had a great time with the bat. He's been so fluent. But maybe it has a lot to do with the lack of confidence, maybe, in the rest of the batting lineup past Kane Williamson. And even though Manish Pandey did get some runs, the way Kane Williamson batted, like you said, Mel, maybe you then think, did they miss the trick? Should Kane Williamson have still just come in at one down? So they are fighting a lot of batting doubts, and just no surprises that they are currently at the bottom of the table, and David Warner scratching his head and shaking his head violently.
Well, that's the show for this week. Where are you going, Bharat? I haven't let you go yet.
Ollie's waking up and she's trying to kick this
dear.
laptop down. Sorry.
Yeah, we'd also like to send a big shout out to Ollie for graduating from puppy preschool, because I have seen the certificate now. Well done to Ollie. Thank you so much for joining us. And just please, if you are watching this from India, please stay at home, wear a mask, sanitize, keep washing those hands, and do all of the right things that you're being asked to do at the moment by the health authorities. And really, all of our thoughts are very, very much with you every single day. We're thinking of everything that's happening there. So please do take care. Thank you so much to Skrill for sponsoring the program today. Don't forget about that promo code that is in the description. So check out the link and use it if you can, and maybe we'll send some money to India as well as some love. So until next time, though, it is over and out.